Part 29. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 285. A sweet date must have a beginning and an end. After watching Xiaoyuki walk into the house, Kurosawa Hikaru turned and left. Although it was a special trip, he still enjoyed it. After all, it was quite fun to send his little girlfriend home. Back home, it was exactly 8 p.m. He took out his phone and took a look at it, and saw the message from Xiaoyuki. My neighbor's uncle told my dad, and he still found out. He started smoking again. I smoked a lot of them at once. Your dad quit smoking. Did he quit on his own initiative, or was your mom asking him to quit? Seeing this information, Kurosawa Hikaru thought for a while and asked. It seems that my mother asked him to quit when she was pregnant with me. He also smoked for a while when I was in junior high school. It was when I hid in my room and was depressed, but that was just that period. All right. Seeing Xiaoyuki's replies one by one, Kurosawa Hikaru probably had an idea. To be honest, he suspected that this father-in-law took this opportunity to smoke. I said I quit smoking, but I didn't quit completely, and I still smoke occasionally. By the way, Brother Guang, many fans on my Twitter are urging me to post new pictures. Is it time to post new pictures? At this moment, Ichino's Yuki changed the topic. You can send out the one for the girl with glasses, but don't send out the one for the Lolita with twin tails yet. Kurosawa Hikaru thought for a moment and then gave his suggestion. All in all, it has been more than half a month since Xiaoyuki registered an account. It is normal for fans to urge for new pictures. The 3 outfits he matched for Yuki at that time were all of a very high standard in terms of makeup and photography. For those 3 sets of images, he even made a special trip to the internet to research the popular makeup. Different from ancient military skills such as archery, photography, makeup, etc., although there are sayings that classics will never go out of style, if they do not keep pace with the times, they will still fall behind the times. When chatting about this matter, they also connected on video and exchanged ideas on how to write copy. After tinkering for half an hour, the new picture was sent out, and the 2 of them also watched the reaction on Twitter along with the video. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Goddess. Senior sister is so beautiful. The response in the comment section was pretty good. Fans who paid special attention to Xiaoyuki came to comment within a few minutes. Wow, the comments came so quickly this time. Xiaoyuki was a little surprised to see such a response. Because you really have fans this time. Seeing the situation in the comment area, Kurosawa Hikaru was also very satisfied. He clicked on the pictures and looked at them carefully. Although the setting is a little bad, after all, we are in a hotel, not in a library, which is more suitable for girls with glasses and literary girls. But he also prepared books for the filming, so the overall performance was still very good. For such a set of pictures, he purely relied on his photography skills to shoot, such as exposure, color contrast, etc., all adjusted directly with the function of a SLR without post-retouching. The key to such a remarkable effect lies in Xiaoyuki as a model, a pair of eyes that discover beauty, and the level of makeup. In fact, Xiaoyuki's appearance is super high. She is naturally beautiful, and she is very beautiful even without makeup. The most important thing is that she is very talented as a model, able to control various makeup styles, and has a strong sense of atmosphere. As long as she finds the right angle and timing, she can take amazing pictures. While chatting and laughing, Kurosawa's phone vibrated slightly, and a message popped up. The sender is Runa Igarashi. The message is very short, with only 1 sentence. Are you busy? I'm not busy, what's wrong? Seeing this scene, Kurosawa Hikaru immediately clicked on it, made the message read, and replied. Brother Guang, what's wrong? Because his expression changed, as if something had attracted his attention, Yuki Ichinos asked curiously. Miss Runa has a message. Kurosawa Hikaru didn't hide it from her either. Then chat with her for a while first. We can chat together. I'll text her to communicate. I'm not jealous, it's just that if you have something to do, you should deal with it first. It's not too late to talk slowly after you are done. Yuki Ichino saw his reaction and explained with a smile. Okay, realizing that she was considerate and sensible, Kurosawa nodded. As the video hung up, Igarashi Runa sent another message, are you still a 0 hour? Definitely. Kurosawa Hikaru still likes playing the piano. Regardless of this identity, although he can also play the piano, he is missing an opportunity after all. YouTube fans are urging new videos, and fans on Twitter and social platforms are urging new activities. I plan to release the video for Flight of the Bumblebee. What do you think? After receiving this answer, Igarashi Runa typed again. There is also a stock video on 0 Hour Office's laptop, which is of a flying bee. It was specially recorded after Kurosawa's piano skills were upgraded to proficiency. Where are you? Is Miss Ninomiya with you? Thinking of this incident, Kurosawa Hikaru also asked after thinking about it. Is it possible that this contact is a good signal? Miss Ninomiya is more arrogant and difficult to respond to, so she asked Miss Runa to contact him. I'm at home, not with her. Can I make a video? I can't tell you clearly by typing. After thinking about it, Kurosawa Hikaru temporarily suppressed his unnecessary thoughts and asked. Okay, after a full minute, Igarashi Runa agreed, probably after a lot of inner struggle. Immediately, as the video application was sent, the call was quickly connected. The screen of Kurosawa Hikaru's mobile phone showed a very good-looking face. That was Runa Igarashi. She was probably at home. Her short silver-gray hair was a little fluffy and not neatly combed. Good evening, Miss Runa. After seeing her again after 2 days, Kurosawa Hikaru felt as if he was in another world and spoke. This greeting is a bit unfamiliar, different from before, although they have never had a video call before, they usually talk in detail in person, or communicate by typing. Good evening, Mr. Huaxin. Igarashi Runa responded calmly to this greeting. Well. Hearing this title, Kurosawa Hikaru could feel her dissatisfaction with him, which was a bit heartbreaking. In fact, he could guess that Miss Runa would not be as close and friendly to him as before. After all, when Chizuru Ninomiya ran away crying, before Runa Igarashi followed him, she looked at him and sighed with disappointed and complicated eyes. Just kidding, don't pay attention. Seeing his worried look, Igarashi Runa also said. A woman's heart is like a needle in the sea. Actually, this is the case. I have re-researched the image issue of 0 Hour in the past 2 days. Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't guess her mood, so he simply got to the point. Image. Talking about business, Igarashi Runa was also puzzled. Hold on. Seeing the confused look on her face, Kurosawa Hikaru also stood up and returned to the room with his cell phone. I have new inspiration in the past 2 days. I think the mask from the previous 0 Hour was still a bit monotonous. As a logo and brand image, it was not recognizable and unique enough, so I redesigned it. Take a look. Soon, he walked into the room, turned on the light, came to the desk, took out the things and put them in order, which was also an explanation. After he was ready, he adjusted the camera and recorded the paper on the table. As for this image, I was thinking about the complete unity of 0 Hour and image, which is the clock plus the 0 pointer. As he was recording, Kurosawa looked at the image on the paper and explained. The clothes are still the same, but the mask has been completely changed. The original single number 0 became a dial with hours, minutes, and hour hands painted on it. In addition, there are 2 small discs that can be used as eye positions. To put it bluntly, This time the image design has become more personalized as the painting skills have been upgraded to proficiency. Your logo and image design are as weird as ever, but they have also maintained their uniqueness and are better than before, but artists are different from technology products. The speed of innovation and updates cannot be too frequent. Through the camera of her mobile phone, Igarashi Runa saw the new image on the paper. She was actually quite satisfied, but it also raised difficulties. The image of 0 Hour has been shown through the War Morning Croatian Rhapsody on the video website, as well as the curtain call performance at the piano competition, lists the bell, Adelina by the Water, 3 piano pieces, and has been it completely made him famous. So far, it has accumulated a considerable number of fans, and everyone is completely accustomed to 0 Hour's weird mask. What's more, during this period, there were many derivative fanarts, namely gentleman hats, 0 Hour masks, tuxedos, white shirts, and suit pants. This set can be said to be deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. I know that it is best to have a fixed image of a public figure to be more recognizable, however, considering the long-term development and surrounding production issues, the performance effects can still be changed. The performance will also be better. For example, if there is any large-scale concert in the future, you can make a short video on the big screen and use a clock to count down. The countdown starts at 11:59 and I will appear on time at 0 o'clock. But the numerical countdown you mentioned before is also feasible, 10, 9, 8, 7. Wait until the moment 0 is reached, and then you will appear. Many people have this way of performing, but it's not unique enough. Do you think it would be better if I changed it? Yes, if I design clothing peripherals in the future, this logo will be more beautiful and more recognizable. And for fans, if they are used to this image and see a standard clock, they will be more likely to associate it with 0 Hour this name. Kurosawa nodded slightly. It was not enough to make money from records alone. If he could create a trendy brand, that would be the real money. You know, under the fan effect and follower effect, fashionable clothing brands are a profitable business. That's true. Although the update speed is very fast, the time now is still early to further improve the image. In the future, there will really be no chance to change it. I plan to re-record the video of the flying bee and take this opportunity to promote it. Are you going to record the video again? Put on this new mask. Right. It takes time to find someone to customize. How long? It should be done in 2 days. Just spend money and have people work hard to process it. That piece of paper should be the design draft, right? Yes. Where are you now? At home. I'm going to get the design draft. This matter needs to be resolved as soon as possible. The fans have been urging us for many days. After deciding on this matter, Igarashi Runa took into account the pros and cons and acted decisively. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 286. Are you coming to find me? Kurosawa Hikaru was a little surprised when he saw that she was about to take action immediately after deciding the matter. No? Or which girl are you with? Igarashi Runa stood up and asked, noticing his surprise. That's not the case, I'm at home alone. I just didn't expect you to come to see me. Kurosawa Hikaru shook his head. He had just sent Xiaoyuki home, how could there be a girl around? Private matters are private matters, and official matters are official matters. This matter is related to the business development of the office, and is especially important. You have sorted out the design draft. See you later. Regarding his shock, Igarashi Runa also said. Good. After hearing this explanation, Kurosawa Hikaru understood what she meant. Not long after, Kurosawa Hikaru went downstairs early and waited for a car at the door. Standing next to the car, he waited for a while and found that the window had not been rolled down. He was a little puzzled because there was no place to insert the design draft. For you. After thinking about it, he opened the door and put the things on the passenger seat. While bending down to put things away, he also took a peek at the back seat. It's a pity that he couldn't see the person he was thinking about in the back seat. Boarding. After he put his things away, Runa Igarashi, who was sitting in the driver's seat, glanced at him and said, "Ah." Kurosawa Hikaru was stunned when he heard this. "We haven't finished talking about official matters yet. While you were busy with the archery competition, you accumulated a lot of to-do items." Igarashi Runa faced his surprised gaze with a calm expression. "All right." Hearing this, Kurosawa Hikaru thought about it and got into the car. "It's less than 9 p.m. now, which is quite early, and I can still go do errands." As soon as I got on the car started driving. Kurosawa, who had fastened his seat belt, felt a little stiff in the passenger seat. "I was actually a little embarrassed just now through the phone, and it was even more embarrassing to meet with me now." He remembered how Miss Ranai had praised him for his dedication, and felt very ashamed. After driving like this for a while, Kurosawa Hikaru didn't know where the car was going and felt a little uneasy. "Are you Miss Ichino's photographer?" Stopping at a traffic light, Igarashi Runa held the steering wheel with both hands, her slender green-white jade fingers coated with nail polish, tapped them gently, and spoke. "Yes." Faced with this question, Kurosawa Hikaru paused for a few seconds and nodded. "Who did her makeup?" "I drew it." "You are so versatile." Knowing that he had done everything by himself, Igarashi Runa couldn't help but look at him sideways. "You flatter me." The lights in the car were a bit dim, but Kurosawa's eyesight was very good. He noticed her sideways glance and smiled bravely. This compliment was quite strange, because Runa Igarashi's eyes were a little dissatisfied. Ms. Ichino's should have officially terminated the contract, right? "I went to YG's office yesterday and officially terminated the contract." "You want her to sign a part-time agency?" "Right." "How courageous are you? You brought them together, and you weren't afraid that they would start fighting again." After confirming this, Igarashi Runa took a deep breath and asked. To be honest, she really couldn't understand what Kurosawa was thinking. "It's my suggestion to let her take the road of professional modeling. She doesn't want to go to a big company like Kungsing, let alone an agency like Beiwa. She thinks it's best to follow you. I think about it from the overall perspective, and I also think letting her follow you is the best option." Kurosawa Hikaru also has no temper about this matter. "Isn't it because you are here?" "Of course not, and I decided this at that time because you said you would stagger the time and reduce our meetings with her. I can't make the decision on this matter. I have to ask her opinion. Of course, you can also force the signing, because you have the most shares and the most say. Signing a model is trivial if you don't care about her opinion." Realizing that he was not acting selfishly, but considering the overall situation, Igarashi Runa reminded him. "Sorry to bother you." Kurosawa Hikaru could feel that she was speaking sarcastically, so he made the matter clear and thought about it before speaking. From this point, it is not difficult to see that although Miss Runa is dissatisfied with him, she still wants to help him repair his relationship with Miss Ninomiya, and does not mind that she is a playboy. "You are a karaoke singer, but you hid it from me. Was it because you were worried that your relationship with Miss Ichino's would be discovered?" After the traffic light time passed and the car started driving again, Igarashi Runa asked again. In fact, she felt very uncomfortable when she realized that Kurosawa Hikaru had lied to her. Because she has always been honest with Kurosawa Hikaru, and she has tried every means to teach him step by step how to pursue Chizuru and trust him. But after calming down and thinking about it afterwards, the situation was a bit special. "Right. The matter has come to this, there is no point in lying," Kurosawa Hikaru nodded. "You want to become an artist, just to hide this." "That's my original intention, but it's also because you are an agent and I happen to be an acquaintance, and I also want to be an artist a little bit, so I thought I could give it a try. Why do you want to start a business with me? You think I can recruit kids to join you and have more opportunities to meet in the office? I do have thoughts in this regard, but there is another point. I saw you being taught a lesson because of my request that day, and I was very angry. I really have to thank you for this matter. After all, I have struggled for so many years and I already own a car and a house. I am not married and have no pressure in life. Why do I still have to stay there and be raped? Lesson. Talking about this matter, Igarashi Runa couldn't help but said while driving the car. In this matter, she was really grateful to Kurosawa. Maybe it's because she's getting older, or maybe she has been in society for too many years, and her sharpness and edge have long been smoothed away. Even if she encounters some unpleasant things in the company, she is too lazy to care about it and goes to work as usual. If Kurosawa's appearance hadn't been the motivation for her to resign, she would have worked at Magic Star Agency for the rest of her life. That was not the wrong path in life, but the path she was taking now made her even more motivated, allowing her to regain her love for life and her longing for the future. Is she okay? Speaking of personal matters, Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help but ask. She has been hiding and crying secretly these past few days. When she watched your game this morning, her eyes were swollen. Igarashi Runa glanced at him and said. Well. Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help but sigh, feeling very guilty. Honestly, I think she's in a terrible situation right now. Seeing his regretful reaction, Igarashi Runa also said. What do you mean? Kurosawa's heart tightened. She is now in a relationship and career family, and has suffered multiple setbacks. Didn't she quit her job as a teacher at Dongda University? Her parents began to urge her to work in a bank, and then they quarreled and broke up with you. Now she is in a dilemma. Realizing this situation, Kurosawa Hikaru wanted to say something, but was unable to speak. Honestly, do you still want to get her back? Of course, even though I broke my promise, I feel that I can't lose her. Speaking of this matter, Kurosawa Hikaru's thoughts were very firm. After Xiaoyuki's reminder, he had already found out his true feelings. That's good, that's why I came to see you tonight. Confirming his thoughts, Igarashi Runa nodded with satisfaction. She should go to work at the bank in a few days. If you want to help her, you must first find a way to solve her dilemma and let her leave the bank. The only way is to let the office develop quickly and make money. More money so she can talk to her parents. Then, she also reminded. Okay, Kurosawa Hikaru originally wanted to develop the office, but now that this matter has happened, he has to find a way. It is difficult to make money in a short period of time just by relying on the piano. If you want to develop clothing peripherals, it is a good choice. The key is that you can draw and you can also put on makeup. I can also cook, and my level is quite good. After that, I will study the menu and open Japanese food restaurants and hot pot restaurants. When it comes to making money, Kurosawa Hikaru has many ideas after thinking about it. After all, he now has quite a lot of skills at his disposal. The more things he knows, the more methods he can use. It's okay. Anyway, take your time and post the next video first. Knowing his thoughts, Igarashi Runa did not go with him to imagine the future, but said. The meal must be eaten one bite at a time, and the road must be walked step by step. The current firm is not yet officially profitable. Although it is good to have a long-term perspective, we must first lay down the basics. Where are we going now? Kurosawa Hikaru nodded, understanding the reason, and then asked. Send someone the design draft, and then stay in the car and don't get out. Don't let anyone see you, so as not to reveal your identity as 0 Hour. If you want to show your true face, you can come with me. It's better not to expose it. During the conversation, the car kept moving forward. With such a conversation, Igarashi Runa was in a good mood, because she felt that her life and career were starting to move on again after a hiatus. It didn't take long for them to reach their destination. "Give me the design draft." After parking the car, Runa Igarashi unbuckled his seat belt and said. After handing her the design draft, Kurosawa Hikaru noticed what she was wearing tonight. Before she came to see him, she put on simple light makeup and lipstick, but under her neatly combed silver-gray bangs, her face was very beautiful and good-looking. She was wearing a pure black waist-length short t-shirt. Even though black was slimmer, it still couldn't hide her proud chest. Her slim waist with a waistcoat line under the t-shirt was very graceful. Her lower body was wearing a high-waisted tight-fitting t-shirt. Pants. In fact, this outfit is not revealing at all, but it may be because her figure is too foul, and she looks extremely sexy and charming. After receiving the design draft, Igarashi Runa stood up again, crossed sideways through the space between the seats, and reached out to the back seat. This sudden movement made Kurosawa Hikaru feel as if a football was suddenly flying over. He was startled and subconsciously stepped back. Immediately afterwards, Igarashi Runa sat down again, with a dark windbreaker in her hand, and put it on. Wait a minute. With her jade arms covered by a coat and her dress looking very formal and conservative, she got out of the car with the design draft and turned around to say, "Good." Kurosawa Hikaru felt a little guilty because he had just stared at her, so he nodded obediently. 3 more chapters are here. This chapter is an extra chapter for 38,000 recommendation votes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 287. 10 minutes later, Igarashi Runa came back. I asked him to make it as soon as possible, but the soonest would be Sunday, she explained when she got back in the car. Good. Kurosawa nodded and looked sideways at her. Because she was well dressed after putting on her coat, so she didn't have to worry about anything going wrong even if she looked directly at her. Where to go next? Take you home. Seeing that he suddenly stopped moving, Igarashi Runa thought about it, pulled his seat belt and sat down, and asked. Isn't there still a lot of business that we haven't discussed? Kurosawa Hikaru glanced at the time on the car screen. It was only 9:23, which was still very early. The most important things have been discussed, the remaining work. Are you free tomorrow? Igarashi Runa nodded and asked. Have it? Kurosawa Hikaru thought about this question seriously before nodding. Tomorrow is Saturday and he is still free. Because the time he agreed with Mirai was Sunday as always, and the time he agreed with Xiaoyuki was even more relaxed, it could be next week. Then I'll take you to the office tomorrow. There are a lot of contracts there. I've selected a few very good ones. You can take a look at them then. Seeing that he still wanted to think seriously, Igarashi Runa sighed in his heart. He is really a busy man, and then said. Although she is an agent and has a keen eye for cooperation, and believes that all contracts are good, they must be informed by all 3 parties. Kurosawa naturally agreed with this situation. After the conversation, the vehicle started the return journey. Whether it's business or personal matters, we have all discussed them while driving, and they are the highest priority matters. On the way home, the car fell into silence. Humans are very strange creatures. When a girl wears very little and very open clothing, such as a swimsuit, the exposed arms and thighs are very attractive, but in this case, the more attractive ones are the parts covered by the fabric. When a girl wears a lot of conservative clothing, such as Igarashi Runa, when she puts on a windbreaker and can't see anything, people will pay special attention to her exposed skin, such as her neck, and what she just said. Visible arms and slim waist. Today's Kurosawa Hikari is in such a psychological state, very contradictory and weird. In the past, he didn't dare to look at Igarashi Runa head-on, because her dressing style was more fashionable and open, and her sexy and hot figure made it impossible for anyone to look at her. Nowadays, as she is dressed very conservatively, it is possible to look at her directly, but the impression before is still arousing people's imagination. When I see short sleeves, I immediately think of white arms, and immediately, people's imagination makes extraordinary leaps in this aspect. Lu Suan. She's still wearing her coat. She came to see me tonight and was dressed so conservatively. Is it because of the estrangement caused by that incident? Is she worried that I will be greedy for her body? However, Kurosawa Hikaru's thoughts were not only that, but also thought of many more levels. This is a helpless result. Even if she still wants to help her repair the relationship with Miss Ninomiya, she is still a good wingman. But if you want to write off what happened that day and forget it completely, it is impossible unless you delete the memory. Regarding such a question, there is no way to ask. After all, being honest with each other requires a good relationship. Not long after, the car drove back to its starting point. Good night. As he got off the car, Kurosawa Hikaru also said something. Good night. Igarashi Runa paused for a few seconds, but still didn't say anything like taking a good rest, just responded. After closing the car door, Kurosawa Hikaru turned around and walked into the apartment. After taking the elevator, he took out his mobile phone and sent a message to Xiaoyuki. The car in front of the apartment caught fire and was on its way home. He must be exhausted. Igarashi Runa recalled what happened just now and said secretly. In fact, she originally wanted to go directly to the office to discuss the matter after sending in the design draft. After all, it is not a good habit to pile up things like work. Solving them as soon as possible is the best solution. And if it's late, the two of them can go out for a late-night snack and then go home to sleep. However, when she returned to the car after delivering the design draft, Kurosawa lost his energy and became silent, probably because he waited for about 10 minutes. Considering that Kurosawa Hikaru got up early in the morning and went to the martial arts gym to shoot arrows and spent the whole day, he was probably too tired and had no choice but to change his plan. As for the issue of dressing, she doesn't have much self-consciousness. She just dresses a little more formally because she has to meet clients. Near 10 o'clock in the evening, Kurosawa Hikaru and Koyuki chatted via video for a while, and then it ended. There is no other reason than that he woke up early in the morning. At this time, normal people would feel sleepy. After the chat ended, Kurosawa Hikaru ran to take a shower when he had some free time. Boom. After taking care of various matters, such as drying his hair, he sat down on the soft bed and lay down. He slept without touching the bed because he still had something to worry about. Are the 3 draws used? Kurosawa Hikaru was a little troubled and had a headache as he thought about this problem. Although he won 3 lottery draws in vain, the source of the achievement was Miki Senpai, and the activation conditions for the achievement made people not sure whether to be happy or to have a headache. Achievement, unique. Activation conditions, make the other person fall in love with you without completing a dating task, times 1/1. It's not as simple as liking, but falling in love. This feeling is very heavy. While thinking, Kurosawa Hikaru took his phone and opened Line to take a look. Since that day, he said, I have a girlfriend on the chat interface of Miki Jr.'s sister, there has been no follow-up. He carefully looked at the chat records of the 2 people. Since adding friends, his attitude has always been very cold, as if he didn't have a good conversation, and he showed a completely uninterested attitude. The more you can't get something, the more you want it. After thinking carefully, Kurosawa Hikaru only thought of one possibility. Just like after losing something, you know how to cherish and regret, human beings have many problems. Good night. After thinking for a while, Kurosawa Hikaru switched to Ninomiya Chizuru's Line page and sent a message. After a while, the message became red. Seeing this scene, Kurosawa Hikaru's boredom was relieved and he was a little happy. Although there was no response, he knew that Miss Ninomiya was still reading his message, which was a good sign, meaning that their relationship had not been severed, but maintained a subtle connection. Let's draw it. Following this episode, Kurosawa Hikaru thought about it and decided to draw the lottery. Any skill rewarded by the system is a priceless treasure, a talent that cannot be exchanged for money. If you ask him if he wants it, he definitely wants it. Even if it is a useless skill, it can be effective as long as it is in the corresponding occasion. Even more, permanent rewards sometimes bring subtle enhancements to the body. For example, nowadays, because of his perfect archery skills, his arms are extremely powerful. People should be honest, especially to themselves. If you want it, you want it. It's not involuntarily. Why be so restrained and hypocritical? System, draw the lottery, draw all 3 times. Do it as soon as you think of it. Kurosawa Hikaru didn't think too much and drew it directly. Any result is good, don't waste it. As soon as the voice fell, a gasapon machine fell from the sky and started the lottery. Congratulations to the host. This time I won the entry-level computer image processing, entry-level boxing, and master-level wilderness survival. Unlike the time limit of the task funds, the rewards drawn by the gasapon machine are permanent. Suddenly, 3 things emerged from Kurosawa Hikaru's mind. Even more, his body trembled slightly, and changes that could not be seen on the surface occurred. For example, his breathing became longer. Although he had the concept of this breathing method in terms of archery skills, with the integration of these skills, especially the master-level wilderness survival, this skill is too terrifying. Countless knowledge emerged, even about various harsh environments and creatures that were previously unknown. Kurosawa Hikaru has an intuition that with the skill of wilderness survival, as long as it is not a natural disaster with unsolvable lethality such as a volcanic eruption, he can overcome the difficulties and obstacles brought by various harsh environments. This skill is very good. It doesn't matter if it is not used on weekdays. It can play a big role at critical moments. As for boxing, it can only be said to be useless, because this is a civilized society. Disputes between people are mostly verbal conflicts, and there are rarely direct physical fights. Image processing, is it photoshopping? 10 minutes later, as he completely absorbed it, Kurosawa Hikaru put aside wilderness survival and boxing and focused on computer skills. Maybe it's an entry-level skill, but in fact, he lacks this skill now. In addition to angle, makeup, scene, light, posture, and lens, a perfect photo requires post-processing of the image. With photography, makeup, and post-processing, he is confident that he can help Xiaoyuki take better photos. After finishing the lottery, he charged his phone, covered himself with a quilt, and fell asleep in a good mood. At 8 o'clock the next morning, Igarashi Runa arrived downstairs of the apartment on time. Because he got up very early, Kurosawa Hikaru also made 2 lunch boxes and took them in the car. I made 2 breakfasts. Let's eat together when we get to the office later. Since he sat in the co-pilot seat, Kurosawa Hikaru glanced at her, then retracted his gaze and patted the bag in his hand. Okay, I haven't tried your skills yet. Hearing this, Igarashi Runa also nodded. When he sat down completely, the 2 of them officially set off for the office. She was dressed so conservatively last night, and she is wearing so cool today. What does she mean? Did she see me last night and confirmed that I am harmless, so she figured it out? Sitting in the co-pilot seat, holding a lunchbox, Kurosawa Hikari glanced at her with his peripheral vision, a little confused. Unlike last night, although she was still wearing a thin windbreaker, she was wearing a tank top and hot pants inside, showing her mature, hot, tall and eye-catching figure to the fullest. Slender, and soft jade arms, white and translucent, beautiful legs that are as eye-catching as lazy white doves, and the proud chest, and the small waist that looks very clean. Such a dress made Kurosawa Hikari not know where to put his eyes to be more polite. One update today. I seem to have caught a cold. I am not feeling well. Please forgive me, I am not sure if it is yang at the moment. I hope it is not. I will recover as soon as possible. Also, I will post here the current skills and tasks of the male protagonist. I will not charge for the author's words, please rest assured. Current skills of Kurosawa Hikaru. Perfect level, archery. Mastery level, musical instruments, piano, painting skills, computer, programming, wilderness survival. Entry level, singing, swimming, surfing, parkour, cooking, Japanese and Western food, photography, driving, makeup, acting, magic, leg techniques, boxing, computer, image processing. Experience card, boxing, leg techniques, parkour, massage, photography, swimming, skating, ballet, that is, unfinished tasks, not yet permanent skills. Currently, there are 3 unfinished dating tasks: a world for 2 with Shifunjayuan, summertime with Ichino's Yuki, and a trip to the skating rink with Miki Shiraha. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 288. On Saturday, at 8:30 in the morning, the 2 people arrived at the 0-hour office. Go straight to the lounge on the 3rd floor and have to fill your stomach before officially doing business. It's so delicious. Igarashi Runa took a bite of the rice ball and was immediately shocked. This is not at the same level as the rice balls she buys from convenience stores in a hurry. Then she ate another sandwich. You said you were good at cooking, is that true? A big rice ball and a sandwich, Igarashi Runa was full. She wiped the sauce from her mouth with a paper towel and was shocked. This level, at least the restaurant level, is not the level of home cooking, even better than her. She obviously loves to eat, and she also studies cooking in her spare time. This Kurosawa is incredible. I always feel like there is nothing he is not good at. If I didn't have confidence, I definitely wouldn't say it. Seeing her expression and reaction, Kurosawa, who had just finished eating, smiled. But it's still very difficult to open a restaurant based on this alone. The catering industry is very difficult. Although she agreed with his level, Igarashi Runa also reminded him. Take your time, it's just one of the alternative directions. Kurosawa lighted his head slightly and did not deny this. The reason why he thought of doing catering was because in his previous life, celebrities opened hot pot restaurants and made a lot of money, giving full play to the power of their stars. There is no need to rush into this matter. It is not too late to make plans after the Japanese skill is upgraded to the proficiency level. The trendy clothing brands you mentioned before are a good direction, but before that, we still need to stabilize our fundamentals. Igarashi Runa nodded slightly and expressed her opinion. Although it is a very important goal to develop the firm as soon as possible, it cannot be rushed. After that, Igarashi Runa stood up, walked to the side and took out a few contracts, and handed them to Kurosawa Hikaru. These are the 3 contracts I selected. They are contracts that I think are of great value and meet your requirements. Take a look. Good. After receiving the contract, Kurosawa started to read it. The first contract is with Avix as a record agent. We have no distribution channels and no production lines, so we have to deal with this aspect first. This company is very sincere and the sales share ratio is 55%. On this basis, they will provide we make announcements. As he started to read the contract, Igarashi Runa sat opposite and explained. What is the typical record agent share in the industry? 73, or 64, or 55 is already a very high share ratio. Do you think this contract must be signed? That's not the case. The number of Avix shares is very low, Only 50,000. The minimum share is the profit of 50,000 pieces. The lower limit is a bit low. How high the upper limit can be depends entirely on your influence. What level is 50,000? The selling price of Neon's albums is usually around 6,000. Including the share, the minimum value of this contract is 150 million yen. Compared with other contracts, the number of copies committed is relatively low, but this contract the advantage is that the share ratio is high. The higher the album sales, the higher the income. I see. Hearing this, Kurosawa Hikaru was thoughtful and settled an account. If the upper limit is high, the higher the share ratio, the better. Do I need to sign this contract immediately? After thinking about it, Kurosawa Hikaru asked. You can leave it alone for now. When you record your first album, we can negotiate with various record companies and strive for more benefits. Igarashi Runa shook his head slightly and said. We still don't know when the first album will be released, but there is no need to be tied to the same boat. Then let's put it on hold for now. In fact, Kurosawa Hikaru also had this idea, in order to maximize profits. He's not sure yet what his first album will be like. There are many piano songs that have been included so far, but generally speaking, the album needs 10 songs, which is not complete yet. The second contract is a permanent invitation to the concert hall, and this one is from the Tokyo Bunkakaikan. They didn't offer a price, but they just split it very high. That is, 90% of your tickets for each performance will belong to us, and 10% will be given to them. Similar to giving us the venue for free. There is also a requirement that you have to hold at least one concert at the Tokyo Bunkakaikan every month. Once a month. Hearing this time request, Kurosawa Hikaru was thoughtful. In fact, one performance a month is already a very loose requirement. Moreover, the Tokyo Bunkakaikan is a relatively large concert hall, with 2,300 seats in the Grand Concert Hall. With so many seats, even if it is calculated based on 10,000 tickets, if it can be filled up, according to the share, he will earn nearly 20 million yen from just one performance. If ticket prices rise again, the revenue will only be higher. After I sign this contract, can I perform elsewhere in the future? For example, in the future, I suddenly want to go on a national tour. Yes, but the number of performances in any concert hall during the same period cannot exceed that of the Tokyo Bunkakaikan. If you want to tour the country, just hold a performance at the Tokyo Bunkakaikan at the beginning and end of the month as a starting point, also serves as the end point. If I sign now, will I have to hold a concert this month? The specific time can be negotiated. How long is the contract? 3 years. Then sign it. After asking and understanding the general matters, Kurosawa Hikaru simply glanced at the contract and nodded. Okay. Hearing his words, Igarashi Runa was a little happy, and immediately ran to the side to get a pen and handed it to him. Wouldn't it be better to read the entire contract later and sign it together? Kurosawa Hikaru saw her action and paused before asking. Sorry, I was a little impatient. Igarashi Runa reacted, a little embarrassed. Because the agency has not signed a contract since its establishment, and has not even started to make a formal profit, so she attaches great importance to this contract. Tokyo Bunkakaikan, as one of Tokyo's mainstream concert halls, lent them the venue almost free of charge, which is a very stable source of income. Perhaps as a YouTuber, the video of Croatian Rhapsody also brought a lot of income to the agency, but the monetization ability is very poor. The main function of videos on audio and video websites is still publicity and exposure, not profit and sales. In contrast, holding a concert is different, you can directly ask fans to pay for it. It's okay. Kurosawa Hikaru smiled, and then picked up the last contract. The third contract is for advertising endorsement, for a music game. Their offer is quite good, 1 billion a year, no special activities are required, just cooperate with them to shoot 5 advertisements and posters for promotion. The only restriction is that you can't endorse other games within a year. As he began to look at the contract, Igarashi Runa was also beside him and summarized. A music game. Hearing this, Kurosawa Hikaru was a little surprised. It's this one. Cat Carnival is one of the hottest music games in China. Endorsing it can be said to be a mutually beneficial cooperation. Igarashi Runa knew that he was a top student and a live-action person, and probably didn't play games very often, so he immediately stood up, walked to his side and sat down, and took out his phone to show him. The music game app of Cat Carnival is an icon of 2 cats. Click on it, and the game will start loading with 2 cat calls. As she sat next to him, the distance between the 2 people was not very close, at least 30 centimeters apart. However, perhaps because of the mastery of wilderness survival, his body and sense of smell were strengthened again, and Kurosawa Hikaru still smelled a very pleasant fragrance in his nose. It was not the smell of perfume, but the smell of shampoo and shower gel. The shampoo scent in the hair was very strong, and the shower gel scent on the neck was looming. After they came to discuss cooperation, I checked the information and tried it. This game is quite interesting, with good reviews and a great reputation. Igarashi Runa also explained while starting the game. Do you want to play it? After entering the game completely, she handed the phone to Kurosawa Hikaru. Okay. Kurosawa Hikaru would naturally not refuse this request. Although he had not touched games much in this life, he was a complete internet addict in his previous life. He had hunted all kinds of games, and music games were no exception. After taking the phone, although Kurosawa Hikaru was playing this game for the first time, he had a basic understanding of the operation. He clicked a few times and entered the music library. The difficulty level of this music game is divided into 1 star at the lowest and 12 stars at the highest. No need to look at the music library, there are many popular songs in the music library, but usually you have to pay for them, or you can unlock them through challenges and upgrades. In fact, they also want to buy the copyright of Croatian Rhapsody from you, but I think it's too early, so I rejected it, otherwise the price of this contract will be even higher. Following his operation, Igarashi Runa sat on the sofa, kept a distance and looked at the phone screen, and explained. I'll try. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded, and then continued to challenge according to the progress of the game. The picture of this cat carnival is more Q version, not the kind of two-dimensional meat-selling type, but all kinds of cats, which is the basis for all ages. As the game started, Kurosawa Hikaru found that the rhythm and speed of the 6-star difficulty songs were ridiculously slow, and the music score was also extremely simple. He didn't even need to think about it, just a few clicks and he passed it. Have you played this game before? Seeing him pass it so easily, Igarashi Runa couldn't help but smack her lips. She had played this level more than a dozen times before and still couldn't pass it, and she almost became autistic. This is my first time playing, but I have a basic understanding of piano, and this is only 8 keys, it's too easy. Kurosawa Hikaru was not surprised by this and explained. Can I try the most difficult song? Buy one. After that, because the 6-star songs had no game experience at all, Kurosawa Hikaru decided to try again. Sure. Hearing this request, Igarashi Runa naturally agreed, and then took the phone back from him and started to charge. Not long after, Kurosawa Hikaru directly bought the most difficult 12-star song and started playing. The star level doubled, but the difference in difficulty was more than doubled. Both the speed and the complexity of the score were completely improved. Wow! As he began to challenge the 12-star song, Igarashi Runa, who was standing by, couldn't help but smack her lips and leaned forward to watch. Because this song was too difficult, she was dazzled just by watching it. If she didn't get closer, she would only feel like she saw a series of garbled characters flying. Not bad, This difficulty is quite high. After the song was finished, Kurosawa Hikaru had a gaming experience this time. Although in terms of difficulty, it can't be compared with Flight of the Bumblebee and Lists the Bells, whether in terms of hand speed or difficulty. But for most people, this difficulty is already very high. Your hand speed is really fast. Hearing this evaluation, Igarashi Runa looked at his hands and couldn't help but sigh. Compared with Kurosawa Hikaru, she found that she was a hand-clumsy person. Just now, she just watched the song and felt a cramp in her fingers, but Kurosawa was operating in an orderly and unhurried manner. The difference was too big. There is no harm without comparison, although she knew that Kurosawa's hand speed was terrifying when she watched him perform Flight of the Bumblebee before. She had not learned piano after all, so she didn't have a real feeling. But this time was different. Even if it was the first time for Kurosawa to play the same music game, he could operate it perfectly. It's okay. After all, I practice piano. Kurosawa smiled and raised his head to say this praise. However, when he finished speaking, he suddenly discovered something. While he was playing the music game, the distance between the two people had been shortened from 30 centimeters to about 10 centimeters without knowing it. The most important thing was that Miss Runa sat very close to him and looked at her mobile phone next to him. Under her short silver-gray hair, the snow-white ears hidden in her hair were like a snow lotus in the silver-white clothes. And her side face was very beautiful, with a small and upright nose, half of her red lips, and her beautiful eyes were also very beautiful. As he paused, Igarashi Runa also came back to his senses and looked at him. When their eyes met, they realized that the distance between the two people was so close. What do you think of this endorsement? Seeing his handsome face and deep dark eyes, Igarashi Runa was stunned for a few seconds, then reacted, stood up, bent down and picked up the contract on the table. Not bad. As the distance was pulled away again, Kurosawa Hikaru also responded. Although it was his first time playing, it was still fun after the difficulty was increased to the corresponding level. That's good, you can take a look at the details. In fact, there are many contracts that I can't decide on my own. I'll show you. Handing the contract to him, Igarashi Runa stood up and walked away as if he suddenly remembered something. It's better to say that he ran away than to say that he walked away, because the situation just now was too embarrassing. Today is still one update, and tomorrow it will resume to 2 and 3 updates. Shushu has no yang, just a cold and fever. Took antipyretic medicine and went to the hospital for an 4 drip. After all the trouble, the fever has completely subsided. Currently there is still a little cold, sore throat, and so on. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 289. Although there were some disturbing episodes, they were all adults. So much. With a pile of pending contracts placed on the table, Kurosawa was a little surprised. There are many people seeking business cooperation. The ones I just screened, and after interviews and inspections, I felt that they were very good and worthy of cooperation. As for these, they are not all contracts, but also have planning content. The specific cooperation conditions can be further discussed. Igarashi Runa nodded slightly, and then explained. You should take a look first. I have investigated each project and made a brief report. When he picked up one of the project proposals, Igarashi Runa also added. Since you made a brief report, show it to me together. It would be better if you have more references. After hearing this, Kurosawa Hikaru said immediately. Okay. Upon hearing this request, Igarashi Runa picked up the notebook on the table and sat on the sofa to his right. Immediately, she looked at the back of the plan document in Kurosawa Hikaru's hand, then bent down and operated with the mouse, opening a document. Let's do it step by step. This is the first project. It is a special interview with TBS TV station. This program. Moving the laptop to his side, she also started explaining. Such documents are part of her daily work at Magic Star. For example, any sponsorships, endorsements, and announcements obtained through connections will be made into documents and reports for explanation and communication to each person in charge. If an artist wants to be successful, he not only needs talent and appearance, but also needs to pay attention to many things: packaging, operations, marketing, publicity, activities, and most importantly, monetization capabilities. If an artist can't make money, no matter how famous he is, it won't mean much. In other words, if an artist's earning power is strong, even if he or she is not well known, he can still improve his reputation through various means and activities. Now, this contract is an event announcement. There are many kinds of activities for artists. The most typical one is stage performances. Although exposure is a good thing, for the sake of the artist's image and style, one must be careful in choosing activities. What do you think? Kurosawa Hikaru asked while reading the documents on his laptop and the plan book when it was over. This proposal is quite good, but my opinion is that it has pros and cons, and it is too early. Before releasing the album for the first time, it is best to reduce the number of public appearances and speeches and maintain a sense of mystery. 0 hour is half. I haven't been active for more than a month, but I can still maintain a high popularity on the internet because of fans' curiosity about you. Isn't that audio game also shown in public? Appearing on a variety show is different from advertising endorsements. The biggest difference is that you speak for yourself and the script speaks for you. In addition, the endorsement of this music game is very sincere, reaching 1 billion yen a year, which is already the top endorsement fee in the industry. In addition, audio games can also help you expand your fan base. That's it, and I don't need to do anything. I just need to shoot a few advertisements and posters. After comparing Kurosawa's light horizontally, we also gained something. 1 billion yen a year is actually a very high price. According to the firm's share, as long as he signs the contract, performs the contractual obligations, and waits until the money arrives, he will get 500 million yen directly without having to worry about equity dividends. How strong the purchasing power of 500 million yen is, I can't explain it in a few words, but it can transform him directly into a billionaire. Maybe he has encountered a sky-high price contract of 5 billion a year, but that contract was completely equal in terms of remuneration and labor, and it was purely a matter of everyone getting what they need. Compared with Kawaii's contract, this audio game endorsement partnership is unbeatable. The conditions and rewards offered by Cat Carnival are too good, right? After thinking about it, Kurosawa Hikaru reacted, which was somewhat intriguing. Otherwise, why would it be the contract I recommend first? A very important reason why they paid so much money is to bet that you will continue to be popular in the next 2 years, become a neon, and even the world the top of the list. Seeing that he noticed this, Igarashi Runa glanced at him with a smile, and then explained. This smile, bright and soft, makes people feel particularly comfortable, like a spring breeze. When Kurosawa Hikaru saw her smile, his heartstrings trembled, and the corners of his mouth curled up. In fact, he had imagined this day before the archery competition. After he decided to show off his cards, he fell into a state of hesitation and uneasiness. In fact, he was worried that this living situation would be ruined. There are many projects piled up. Even if they are screened, there are still many that need to be reviewed and considered before a decision can be made. The two of them sat on the sofa area in the lounge, one seat for each other. Because of the initial incident, the distance between the two of them was maintained very well, and there was no longer the situation where they accidentally got close to each other. A little hot. After working like this for more than an hour, Runa Igarashi muttered, then sat up straight, took off his coat, and rolled his hair along the way. Wearing a camisole, she reveals her slender arms, her round and round shoulders are slightly red, and her collarbones are clear and sexy. The key is that her figure is so hot. A simple camisole bears the weight that it should not bear at this age. The heavy fat rabbit is very dazzling. When a woman takes off her clothes, whether it is a coat or socks, it is extremely attractive to men. As she took off her coat, Kurosawa glanced at her subconsciously and froze. It wasn't because he was distracted by her figure, but because a few lines of words appeared in front of his eyes. Date mission, first date with Igarashi Runa. Mission goal, meet alone at an izakaya, send her home while she is half drunk, make her shy 3 times, let her kiss your lips. Task duration, 360 hours, 15 days. Mission funds, entry-level wine tasting, entry-level massage, experience card. Mission rewards, entry-level wine tasting, entry-level massage, permanent. Seeing the specific details of this date mission, Kurosawa was dumbfounded. First date with Igarashi Runa, mission progress update, make her shy 1/3. What's wrong? Being stared at by him all the time, Igarashi Runa couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed, pretending that nothing happened, but found that he was still staring, so she could only speak. Fine. Hearing this question, Kurosawa Hikaru came back to his senses, shook his head, and then fell into deep thought. According to the triggering conditions of the date mission, in other words, Ms. Runa has the idea of going on a date with him. In other words, do you like him? Although he could feel that Miss Runa didn't care much about him being a playboy, wasn't this development too shocking? System, once the date mission is triggered, does it mean that the other person must like me? After thinking about it, Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help but consult in his mind. To be honest, it is not always a good thing to know that others like you, especially when you have no way to respond. You know, he is now riding on 3 boats. Of these 3 boats alone, one of them has capsized in half and has not yet been rescued. If more of these were added, they might all sink together. No. The system also responded to this question. What does that mean? There are 3 triggering conditions for the date mission. The first requirement is that the host has a favorable impression of the opposite sex towards the woman. The second requirement is that the woman has an unfavorable impression of the opposite sex towards the host. The third requirement is a valuable date. Direction. Did you make a mistake? After listening to the system's explanation, Kurosawa Hikaru wondered if he heard it wrong. That's right, the system's voice was emotionless. But even if I have a crush on her, it's not the kind of emotion between a couple of opposite sexes. Whether there is or not, the host should know better than anyone else. There are prerequisites for triggering the date mission, and it must be a girl that the host has a crush on. Otherwise, as long as the woman wants to date the host, the mission can be triggered. The tasks are too numerous to count. As soon as these words came out, Kurosawa Hikaru immediately wanted to refute, but was speechless because what the system said made sense. After coming back to his senses, he once again glanced at Runa Igarashi, who was sitting on the sofa next to her, looking at her beautiful face that was pure and lustful, fashionable and virtuous, and very mature and generous. If Miss Ninomiya is an intellectual and aloof iceberg sister, then Runa-san is a gentle sister who is mature, bright and tolerant. Ms. Runa is really gentle. Whether it is housework or work, she takes care of everything. She is very considerate and careful in her work. She is also enthusiastic, and a little naughty. Ask yourself, does he really have no idea about Miss Runa like this? How about I put it on again? Facing his strange gaze, Igarashi Runa felt a little uncomfortable and asked cautiously. The air conditioning was not turned on in the office. After all, it was only early in the morning, but because she had been sitting for a long time and was wearing a coat, she was inevitably a little hot. Anything is fine. Because of the date mission, Kurosawa Hikaru's mood was a bit complicated, so she was non-committal about the question and let her be happy. Igarashi Runa couldn't figure out his situation, but after thinking about it, she decided to put on her coat. Anyway, they are still working. Kurosawa, Kurosawa, you are really evil-minded and greedy. With so many thoughts on his mind, Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help but blame himself in his heart. According to this statement, doesn't he also have a good impression of Miki-senpai, so he triggered the mission? When he and Miki-senpai triggered the date mission, it was before the archery competition. It was inevitable that he would be lucky at that time. But after the competition, he also confirmed his thoughts and gave a rejection answer. It was a fluke before and it could still be explained, but what about now? Because Miss Runa didn't seem to care much about him being a playboy, she just kept getting along with him as before, so he unknowingly had his own thoughts and wondered whether she might be involved. Idea. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 290. Taking off the coat would make the atmosphere weird, so Igarashi Runa didn't save on electricity and turned on the air conditioner directly. Such a small episode was embarrassing, and she felt a little subtle and headache in the following work. The subtle thing was that she felt that Kurosawa cared about her figure, which should be something to be happy about. What made her more headache was that she was not sure whether she chose to take off her coat at that time because of the heat or because she wanted to seduce Kurosawa. After all, she knew very well that she had some feelings for Kurosawa Hikaru, but because of Chizuru's existence, she suppressed this emotion very thoroughly and never showed it. It's definitely because of the heat. After thinking about it, Igarashi Runa finally found the answer and convinced herself. Chizuru hasn't come out of her sad state yet, and she hasn't even reconciled with Kurosawa and got back together. She was unwilling to accept the possibility that she wanted to seduce her bestie's boyfriend under such circumstances. Because if she did so, as a bestie, it would be too dereliction of duty. Although Kurosawa is three-timing, he already has several women anyway, so one more of her wouldn't make a big difference. But even if she wants to join in, she has to wait until Chizuru and Kurosawa's relationship is repaired before making plans. Don't consider it. After a few hours of busy work, it was 11 o'clock, and Kurosawa Hikaru put down the last plan. Done. Seeing this, Igarashi Runa felt relieved and couldn't help stretching. Because Kurosawa was busy with various things and couldn't concentrate on the development of the agency and the work of artists, she had to postpone various contracts and plans until today. In fact, for her, this was a very uncomfortable situation. You know, she has a vigorous and decisive work style, never dragging her feet, and likes to think about resting after everything is done. These contracts and plans, piled up, are like something pressing on her heart. If it's not solved in one day, it's a worry. Did it take so long to select 3 more contracts? Because when she stretched, her graceful waist and curvy figure were clearly visible. Kurosawa Hikaru deliberately avoided looking at her and kept his eyes on the table. It took only a few hours to decide, which was already very fast. If it was Phantom Star or a large agency in the industry, it would take at least several working days to finalize each contract and project, and only after multiple assessments and audits can a decision be made. Hearing this, Igarashi Runa also explained. Signing 5 good projects at one time is an unimaginable super treatment for an artist. To achieve such results, it is thanks to the popularity of Croatian Rhapsody and the legendary performance at the Tokyo Bunka Kaikan at midnight. Since that performance, Kurosawa really helped his fans regain their place, because his piano level is too high. Those who are also practitioners in the piano industry dare not criticize him anymore. Do you have any plans this afternoon? After chatting for a while, Igarashi Runa asked. What's the matter? Kurosawa Hikaru did not answer in a hurry, but asked back. Nothing, just pure curiosity. No plans for the afternoon, I'll see later. What about you? I'll meet with the heads of each project separately, discuss the matters in further detail, and finalize the contract terms. I'll go to Chizuru's house in the evening and talk to her about Ichino's Yuki. Will she agree? Hearing this, Kurosawa Hikaru felt a little nervous and uneasy. Although Yuki has high hopes for him and believes that he will definitely get this done, it's hard to say what the result will be. If Miss Ninomiya firmly refuses this, it will be difficult, because he is not very comfortable letting Yuki go to other agencies to be a model. I will help, although I think it's hard for her to accept. Seeing that he cares about this matter, Igarashi Runa smiled and comforted him. Then I'll trouble you. I'm grateful to you for everything. Thank you. Kurosawa Hikaru was naturally grateful when he found out that she was willing to help. You're welcome. Hearing this thanks, Igarashi Runa waved her hand with a warm smile. In fact, she was quite happy to be able to help Kurosawa Hikaru. Because this guy is not just powerful, but also almighty. It's not that easy to help him. What's more, this matter is not only to help Kurosawa, but also to help Chizuru. I still have to thank you. You helped me a lot. Kurosawa Hikaru felt very guilty towards her. Because he didn't have the courage to respond to Miss Runa's dating task, goodwill, and expectations. It's not that he has the heart but not the courage, but Miss Ninomiya is still in a sad state. If Miss Ninomiya finds out that he and her bestie, Miss Runa, are dating together, then it's over. Where are you going next? Seeing him thank her solemnly, Igarashi Runa was a little uncomfortable, so she just asked. 11 o'clock, let's go home first. If there's anything in the afternoon, let's talk about it after lunch. Kurosawa Hikaru took out his phone and took a look. Then wait for me for a while, I'll pack up and take you back. Realizing his schedule, Igarashi Runa also said. No, it's broad daylight, I can just take the train back. Kurosawa Hikaru didn't want to cause trouble for her. It's also the job of the agent to take care of the artist's food, clothing, housing, and transportation. Isn't that the assistant's job? Kurosawa Hikaru paused after hearing this and couldn't help but say. Although he didn't know much about this industry, he still had some idea of these positions. The role of the agent is mainly to help the artist find notices, seek cooperation, negotiate various matters with the company, and arrange itineraries for the artist. Miscellaneous tasks such as food, clothing, housing, and transportation are usually handled by assistants. But you don't have an assistant now, so I have to serve as an assistant. Igarashi Runa didn't deny the statement, just said. Okay. Kurosawa Hikaru saw that she insisted on doing so, and he had nothing to say. Wait a moment, you are not allowed to sneak away. After deciding on this matter, Igarashi Runa nodded, and then walked out after giving a warning. Seeing her walk out, Kurosawa Hikaru sat there, unable to sneak away, and could only wait. Okay, let's go. After a few minutes, the door of the lounge was opened and Igarashi Runa knocked on the door. Hearing this, Kurosawa Hikaru stood up and walked over. When he walked over, he suddenly found that Igarashi Runa had changed into an OL uniform, which was a white shirt and a black skirt, and she was wearing a female suit on the outside. This was very different from her usual dressing style, just like the day when she was at the Tokyo Bunkakaikan. You are tidying up, are you going to change clothes? When he found this, Kurosawa Hikaru was a little surprised. He originally thought that what Igarashi Runa meant by tidying up was to put away the documents such as the plan and the contract, and she did take them away just now. So she left for a few minutes just to change a set of clothes. I have to meet a client in the afternoon, so I have to dress more formally. Igarashi Runa nodded slightly, picked up a pair of glasses and put them on the bridge of her nose, and then supported them with her fingers. It must be said that she looked very capable and handsome in the OL uniform and a pair of glasses, giving people a very reliable feeling. Hey! Realizing this situation, Kurosawa Hikaru nodded and understood. What does hey mean? Hey. Seeing his intriguing reaction, Igarashi Runa was a little concerned. It's pretty good. Kurosawa Hikaru was speaking in all fairness, without any selfishness. I didn't want you to praise me. Do you always talk to girls like this? Hearing this evaluation, Igarashi Runa paused, and then rolled her eyes at him, complaining and speechless. This guy must be able to coax so many girls because of his sweet mouth. If this problem is not changed, I don't know how many girls will like this guy in the future. Then what do you want me to say? Being glared at by her, Kurosawa Hikaru was a little helpless. During the conversation, they went downstairs all the way. Not long after, Kurosawa Hikaru was sent to the door of his house. Call me if you have anything. When he got out of the car, Igarashi Runa reminded him. You too. In response, Kurosawa Hikaru, who got out of the car, also responded, and then closed the car door. Then, Igarashi Runa drove away. What should I eat for lunch today? Watching her car go away, Kurosawa Hikaru stood at the door for a while, but did not go home directly, but walked away. In fact, it was lunchtime now, and he could have eaten with Igarashi Runa. When he got up this morning to make lunch, he also had this plan. If there was a lot of work, he would just order takeout and eat together in the office. It was just that the triggering of the dating task just now made him a little restrained, and he did not dare to have too much contact with her. A man and a woman, eating alone, is actually quite ambiguous. Whether it is true or not, the host knows better than anyone else. Recalling the words of the system, Kurosawa Hikaru's mood was a little subtle. Whether he has a good impression of Miss Runa, that is for sure. Because Igarashi Runa is a very charming mature woman, whether it is appearance, temperament, personality, and figure. The most important thing is that her gentleness and thoughtfulness, the sense of tolerance and closeness she brings to people, if you are familiar with her, it is difficult for people not to have a good impression of her. What concerned him more was that the triggering condition of the dating task actually had another condition, which was that he had a crush on the girl. This situation was unexpected, but reasonable. As the system said, if he didn't have to have a crush on the girl, as long as the girl had a crush on him, the task could be triggered, then there would definitely be so many tasks that he would be overwhelmed. And if he didn't have a crush on the girl, even if they went on a date together, it would at most bring good memories to the girl, which was of no value to him. 2 more chapters here. I should be able to return to my usual extra chapters tomorrow, sorry. A low fever on the first day, a fever on the second day, and on the third day, which was today, I only had a sore throat, and a nose that was blown with a roll of toilet paper. My nose hurt so much. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 291. One advantage of eating alone is that you can eat whatever you want. After finishing lunch, Kurosawa Hikaru came to Zuifeng Dojo in the afternoon. After the various students and disciples visited each other, he was taken to a room on the edge of the dojo by Sato Shinichi. Brother Kurosawa, here are the violins and pianos rented as per your request. Let's see how they go. Regardless of the weather, Sato Shinichi was wearing a kimono, folding his hands in his sleeves, and looking at the layout of the room. This was a room he had specially cleaned. The floor was covered with tiles. In the large room, there was a large Steinway piano and a music stand with a violin-shaped cloth bag placed on it. Brother, did you rent or buy this? Kurosawa just took one look and knew that this piano was of high quality and could be said to be brand new from the factory. It's rented. I told you not to buy it. Thank you, brother. Does the future know about this? Realizing that he didn't buy it specifically, Kurosawa was relieved and then asked. If you really buy a piano, it is not worth it considering the price of a Steinway piano, which easily costs tens of millions of yen. Should she know? Shinichi Sato asked in response to this question. No, tomorrow is the time. Kurosawa shook his head slightly. Want to give her a surprise? Ha ha ha. At this point, Kurosawa Hikaru did not deny it and laughed. Seeing how he couldn't help laughing, Sato Shinichi was also happy. Are you going to let Ling Shi come and play some songs with her? After chatting happily and laughing, Sato Shinichi looked at the piano and felt a little strange. Although he practices archery, which is an elegant and beautiful martial art that cultivates one's moral integrity, musical instruments are relatively unfamiliar to him, especially Western instruments such as pianos. After all, in the process of practicing Kyudo, the word quiet is what he pays attention to, so he spent a lot of time in silence in his life. Even if he comes into contact with musical instruments occasionally, they are non-traditional instruments. No, she wants to play some songs with me. Kurosawa Hikaru didn't hide it from him. After all, the answer to the mystery would be revealed tomorrow. You can also play the piano. Sato Shinichi was surprised. In response to this question, Kurosawa smiled and said nothing. He just walked forward and sat down in front of the Steinway piano. He stretched his hands straight and flat, and as his hands fell, passionate and violent piano music suddenly sounded. The melody of the song is extremely fast, and his hands are so nimble that they bring up after images, and the fingertips are dancing, which makes people dizzy. This is Flight of the Bumblebee. Although this song is not very good, nor is it the most difficult, it is a good choice for improving your hand speed and showing off your skills. In the blink of an eye, as the sound of the piano subsided, Kurosawa Hikaru raised his head and looked at Sato Shinichi beside him. Sharp. Sato Shinichi was a little stunned, and when he noticed his gaze, he immediately applauded and praised without hesitation. Is it just awesome? Kurosawa Hikaru was a little surprised when he heard this comment. I don't know much about music, so I don't know what level this piece of music is, but I really think you are very good at it. Your hand speed is so fast and you are very handsome. Sato Shinichi found that there was a gap in his heart, and he affirmed while explaining. Brother Kurosawa's performance just now should be very good. Although the music is not very good, his playing speed is unusual. All right. Kurosawa Hikaru was speechless when he heard this comment. Originally, he wanted to use the song to introduce his other identity, 0 Hour. But what was unexpected was that Brother Shinichi didn't think of that aspect at all. Brother, it's not that I don't support you, I really don't understand music. Seeing his depressed look, Sato Shinichi couldn't help but spread his hands and smiled bitterly. He is too old to appreciate such things. For him, there are only two hobbies among the few. Archery and tea drinking, both of which require the word quiet. I don't mean to blame you. This should prove that I can play the piano, right? Realizing that he had no idea about this aspect, Kurosawa Hikaru thought for a while and stood up. Of course you can, brother, you are really versatile. Sato Shinichi nodded firmly. Let's go, Chin tried it too, let's go drink tea. After Kurosawa thought about it, he skipped the topic and walked over. In fact, he didn't mean to hide it from Brother Shinichi. He didn't tell him directly because he didn't want to cause too much trouble to others. Brother Shinichi is so enthusiastic. If he finds an opportunity, he will definitely try his best to help. You're already here, why don't you accompany me and learn how to shoot arrows? There's still so much time. That's true. Let's go. They walked out of the room together, and Kurosawa Hikaru closed the door with his backhand. Would you like to invite other students to support you tomorrow? Although I don't understand music, they should understand. Seeing him closing the door naturally as if he were his own home, Sato Shinichi looked on and asked. No, tomorrow I plan to perform alone in this room with Future for a while. Being alone, can that mate agree to this? Sato Shinichi still has fresh memories of what happened before. I tried to find a way to get her to agree, but I don't want to make it public. Do not worry. During the conversation, the two people walked side by side. At night, Kurosawa Hikaru had dinner at Zuifen Dojo and was sent home by the driver. At such a time, he chatted with Xiaoyuki and looked up things on the computer. The thing to look up is the repertoire that will be used in the ensemble tomorrow. Maybe the system requirement is to play one song together, but if you have half an hour of alone time, if you like it in the future, it's not a problem to play more songs. He didn't know much about the violin, so he had to consider whether Sifenun would play it in the future. Although he was busy and just chatting, Ichino's Yuki didn't really care. It wasn't until nightfall that the two of them said good night to each other. Good night. After taking a shower and lying on the bed, Kurosawa Hikaru took out his mobile phone and sent a message to Ninomiya Chizuru and Shifunjin Mirai respectively. Neither of them responded. He held his phone and looked at the screen. Out of boredom, he opened a line page. That was the chat page for Miki Senpai, and their information was still on August 10th. I have a girlfriend. This sentence is like arrest, forcibly suspending the connection and relationship between them. Only now did he notice one thing. The date task was not triggered when the woman had a crush on him. Have I ever had a crush on her? That white silhouette appeared in his mind, and Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help but ponder. In fact, he had very few interactions with Miki Senpai. It could be said to be very few, with only a few meetings. Having said that, he was once stunned by the beauty of this girl. It was the first time we met in a photography shop. The appearance of Miki Bayu was like an elite coming out of a fairy tale, dreamy and beautiful. Right. After thinking about it, Kurosawa Hikaru quickly felt relieved. Heart of beauty in everyone. The dating trigger mentioned by the system is to have a good impression. As long as you are a man, it is a matter of course that you will have a good impression of such a beautiful woman. If he insists on saying that he doesn't have any affection for Miki Senpai, that would be an absolute lie. However, there is a difference between having a good impression and liking someone. Zuifen Dojo is a huge mansion with several shooting ranges and is full of antique charm. In the courtyard, the water splashes, the flowers and plants are stained with morning dew, and the air is fresh and pleasant. Early in the morning, two people came to Zuifen Dojo. The leader is the black-haired Shifunjin Mirai. Unless it is a special period, such as the New Year period, otherwise, she will come to the dojo to practice every Sunday. Followed by Akai Sayaka, she is still wearing a maid outfit. The ashram at this time is very quiet and there will be no outsiders. It is the most suitable time to purify the mind. After walking through the corridor, the two people came to the first shooting range. However, when Sifenjin Mirai took off his shoes, put on a pair of white socks, stepped on the wooden floor of the dojo, and walked to the corner, he was stunned. Because there are already people present in the dojo. The man was wearing a simple white shirt and trousers, but his chiseled face was extremely handsome. Kurosawa. Sifenjin was stunned for a moment in the future. When she saw the man's appearance clearly, she was pleasantly surprised. She originally thought that meeting Kurosawa would have to wait until the afternoon. She never expected that it was only 7:30 in the morning and Kurosawa would be one step ahead of her. Good morning, Mirai. Standing at the shooting point, staring at the Kurosawa light in the courtyard, he turned his head when he heard the words, and raised his hand to say hello. Good morning. Sifenjin responded happily in the future and walked forward. Meeting each other early in the morning meant that they would spend half a day together. She had accumulated a lot of things to say to Kurosawa before, but there was no chance. This time, she definitely had enough time. Why are you so early this time? As he approached, Sifenjin Mirai raised his head slightly and looked at him, somewhat puzzled. Because I need to prepare something, Kurosawa Hikaru said, pretending to be mysterious. What? Sifan found out in the future that he was deliberately hiding it. His curiosity was aroused, and he was very concerned. In this regard, Kurosawa Hikaru did not say anything, but stretched out his hand to gently brush a strand of her temple hair and tucked it behind her ear. This sudden movement made Sifan future body freeze up, and his heart beat a little faster, but he didn't resist, wanting to see what he wanted to do. Such as this. The next moment, Kurosawa Hikaru took his hand back from behind her ear, and there was a delicate, bright red rose with morning dew between his fingers. Sifan Mirai was a little surprised when he saw a flower suddenly appear as he stretched out his hand. Although tricks like magic have long been common in modern times, they have even been exposed in various ways and are no longer mysterious. But she couldn't react to Kurosawa's magic, and she didn't even see any traces of it. It's beautiful. Immediately, Sifan Mirai happily took it. She took a sniff and found that the smell was very fresh. It was not fake flowers. It was obviously specially bought. Where did you get this rose? Did Miss Akai help you? Little tricks like magic are actually very interesting, especially when experienced in person. After thinking about it in the future, Sifan couldn't figure out what was going on and was a little curious. While speaking, she also looked at Sayaka Akai behind her. In response to the questioning look, Sayaka Akai shook her head slightly and denied the matter. Magic solving puzzles is boring. Faced with her curiosity, Kurosawa Hikaru smiled and did not answer her. Magic is a thing that relies on blindness, blind spots in vision, and distraction, combined with practical techniques. Once the mystery is revealed, the magic trick means nothing. Makes sense. Sifan thought it made sense in the future, so he stopped asking and smelled the roses in his hand again. The petals of the rose are very delicate, and the thorns have been pruned, making it easy to pick up. It makes people feel good to receive a rose early in the morning. Good morning, Miss Sayaka. Seeing Mirai's mood, happy because of his early arrival and the little magic trick, Kurosawa Hikaru smiled and did not forget the truth. After a few days, the slap marks on her face had completely disappeared and she was back to her original state. Good morning, Mr. Kurosawa. Akai Sayaka nodded slightly and responded calmly. The plan remains unchanged. The conversation went smoothly, and Kurosawa Hikari got straight to the point. Sayaka Akai did not say anything, confirming this. What's the plan? After hearing this, Sifan Mirai, who was holding a rose and in a beautiful mood, suddenly felt that something was wrong. What's going on? Did Kurosawa make any plans with the maid without her knowing? Realizing that she was alert, Kurosawa Hikaru didn't hide it from her. He took 2 steps forward and walked to her, bowed his head and whispered in her ear. I discussed it with her and gave us half an hour to be alone. Half an hour? Hearing this time, Sifan Mirai was immediately shocked. He looked at him and then at the maid. Let's go. Facing her disbelieving look, Kurosawa Hikaru stretched out his hand to her and invited her hand. Seeing this scene, Sifan Mirai was still a little unable to react. She looked at Sayaka Akai and wanted to know if this was true. In response to the eldest lady's gaze, Sayaka Akai said nothing, just closed her eyes and pretended not to see. With this action, the answer has been revealed. Realizing this, Mirai Shifanjin suddenly felt a little uncomfortable, but when he saw Kurosawa Hikaru's extended hand, he mustered up the courage to hold it. With their hands folded, Kurosawa Hikaru took her hand and started walking. Where are we going? Following his footsteps, Sifan was a little curious about the future. Go somewhere where we can be alone and spend quality time together. Regarding this question, Kurosawa Hikaru wanted to give her a surprise. Naturally, it was impossible to solve the mystery in advance and deliberately teased her. Mr. Kurosawa. Hearing this, Sayaka Akai, who was following behind, suddenly lost her composure. I measured. Kurosawa Hikaru saw that she was very concerned and assured her. Is half an hour enough? At the same time, Mirai Shifunjin stood on tiptoes, leaned into Kurosawa Hikaru's ear, and said. Being teased by her in turn, Kurosawa opened his mouth, not knowing how to continue. Because there is no suitable answer to this kind of question. Today's update shows that the state is not very good. I will continue to work hard tomorrow and will definitely return to the previous state as soon as possible. Shushu is really not lazy. Everyone can see how diligent Shushu is. He has been receiving updates since it was released. However, the situation in the past few days is quite special. Tokyo's most affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 292. We're here. Walking through the Chuifeng dojo, Kurosawa Hikaru led them to a door. Where is this? Shifunjayuan Mirai looked at the door in front of her and felt very unfamiliar. She couldn't guess what was behind the door. Although she grew up in the Chuifeng dojo, her activities were not very large. She mainly stayed in places like the shooting range, tea room, and dining room. In fact, she had no idea how many rooms there were in the Chuifeng dojo, and she had never walked through all the places. You'll know when you open the door. Facing her puzzled eyes, Kurosawa Hikaru slightly turned sideways and motioned her to open the door. Okay. Shifunjayuan Mirai nodded, and then without any delay, time was precious, she directly grasped the door handle and pushed it open. Instantly, the scene inside the house came into her eyes. Under the transparent floor-to-ceiling windows, the cool breeze in the early morning blew up the double-opened curtains. The clean and tidy tile floor, in the center was an ivory-white Steinway piano, and next to it was a music stand with a violin bag. There weren't too many messy things in the room, only two things. A piano and a violin. Realizing this, Shifunjayuan Mirai couldn't help but look back. Suddenly looking back, she met a pair of fascinating eyes, and a slight arc, a smile on the corner of her mouth. Don't you want to play with me? Kurosawa Hikaru saw her trembling beautiful eyes and was very satisfied with the result. It was very difficult to create a surprise for Mirai, because as a rich lady, she had long been accustomed to a life with everything. Having said that, difficulty does not mean impossibility. Even for Shifunjayuan Mirai, there are still things she longs for. Freedom, beauty, and romance. Today, Shifunjayuan Mirai was indeed surprised. Seeing him look a little complacent, her eyebrows curved, like water tenderness. In fact, a man's pride, if the time and occasion are appropriate, is a kind of charm. Do you think today is not appropriate? Kurosawa Hikaru saw her soft eyes, his heart was moved, and he asked back. Of course it's appropriate. Shifunjayuan Mirai had been looking forward to this for a long time, so how could he feel that it was inappropriate? Go in. Confirming her happiness, Kurosawa Hikaru also said. Okay. Shifunjayuan Mirai nodded slightly, and then walked in. As she walked into the room, Kurosawa Hikaru glanced at the maid. 8:13. In response to this sight, Akai Sayaka took out a pocket watch, looked at the time, and then turned to him. The time is now 7:42, and what she said refers to the 31-minute appointment. Okay. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded slightly, walked into the room, and closed the door. The action of closing the door was very slow, which attracted Shifunjayuan Mirai's attention. However, during this process, Akai Sayaka did not reach out her hand to stop this. Bang! When the door was completely closed, Shifunjayuan Mirai couldn't help but look at Kurosawa Hikaru. We have half an hour. Facing her gaze, Kurosawa Hikaru leaned forward, opened his arms, and directly hugged her into his arms. Shifunjayuan Mirai is very tall and slender, with long fingers, arms, and legs, and a very good proportion. The feeling of holding her in his arms, although not soft, is particularly smooth and soft. What do you want to do? Being held in his arms, Shifunjayuan Mirai saw that the door had not moved, and the huge stone in her heart fell down, and then she smiled, gently tiptoed in his arms, facing him, exhaling like orchids. Hold for a while first. The four eyes met, and finally he could hold her directly, and Kurosawa Hikaru smiled. After saying that, he looked away from her, buried his head in her shoulders and hair, and sniffed her fragrance and smell. It was a refreshing and graceful fragrance, elegant and pleasant, which made people indulge and relax, and feel relaxed. Feeling his warm and powerful arms, Shifunjayuan Mirai leaned on his chest, and also put away the thoughts and tricks of teasing, raised his arms and hugged him. No words or skills are needed, just a simple hug and feeling each other's presence. For her, even such a hug is hard won. At this moment, she really felt that Kurosawa Hikaru was beside her and in front of her. After hugging for a while, Kurosawa Hikaru's arms around her back loosened slightly, but did not retract them, but slid down. Feeling that his hands began to become dishonest and no longer a simple hug, Shifunjayuan Mirai raised her head from his shoulders and looked at him. I can't help it, your skin is too smooth. In response to this look, Kurosawa Hikaru said with a thick skin and confidence. Although he and Mirai did not formally make an engagement, they were also in love with each other, and even broke through that layer of paper a long time ago, established a relationship, and wanted to stay with each other for life. I don't blame you. Shifunjayuan Mirai smiled gently, with tenderness between her eyebrows and eyes, and her eyes were as silky as water, stirring the heartstrings. As long as this man wants, he can do anything he wants. Let's go play the piano first. Looking into her beautiful eyes, Kurosawa Hikaru realized that she was even more eager than he was. Her twisted and crazy soul was ready to break free at any time, so he calmed down and let go of her hand and said, the key to being alone this time is to go on a date. This is just the beginning. There is still a lot of time. Let's finish the task first. Although he is greedy for Shifunjayuan's future beauty, he is a man with sentiments. He has wisdom, but it does not mean that he only uses his wisdom to think, and he also pursues emotional and spiritual enjoyment. It's hard to have time alone together. It doesn't matter whether I play the piano or not. However, he let go of his hand, but Shifunjayuan Mirai refused to let go, holding his back tightly with a pair of jade arms. She was wearing a black embroidered dress, and her cold white jade arms were smooth and soft. Don't you want to play with me? Kurosawa Hikaru didn't expect that she couldn't stop. He was stunned for a moment and then asked. Of course I do, but there are many ways to perform ensembles, right? Shifunjayuan nodded in the future and looked up at him with a breathtaking gaze. Finally got a chance to be alone together, and the maid was no longer in the way, but ended up playing the piano, which was such a waste. She doesn't want to play the piano, she just wants to do something with Kurosawa that she can't usually do. In the future, I promised Miss Sayaka that I won't do anything out of line, she is still waiting outside the door. If we don't play the piano all the time, she will notice something strange. Seeing that her eyes were getting hotter, as if there were flames burning, and her words were even more sultry, Kurosawa Hikaru's heartbeat accelerated, and he couldn't control it anymore. In order to avoid losing control, he comforted her. He had repeatedly pledged his character before, but if he crossed the line when he first entered the company, it would be difficult to discuss cooperation in the future. All right. Shifunjayuan heard this in the future and gradually calmed down. Indeed, the maid is still waiting outside. If she doesn't play the piano all the time, she will definitely notice something strange. Having said that, she didn't end it there. Instead, she raised her arms, hugged Kurosawa's neck, pulled him down, and kissed him. Even if you can't do more, kissing is okay, after all, you've kissed before. The progress of the task, the two people's time with Sifan in the future has been updated. Let her kiss you. It has been completed. This time, no one else was present and no one was watching. Realizing this, Kurosawa Hikaru no longer forced himself to calm down, but kissed her selflessly. After a full minute, the two were able to separate. My kissing skills are really bad. Sifan retracted his hands in the future, his face was a little flushed, his breathing was a little breathless, and he looked at him with charming eyes. Are you praising me or scolding me? Kurosawa licked his lips, feeling a sweet taste, and then felt depressed. Of course I'm complimenting you, but it shows that you have little experience. Crossing his hands behind his back, Sifan Mirai looked at his handsome face and smiled. The previous wet kiss at the Budokan was too short and there was no time to interact. But this time, there was enough time, so she also gained a lot. Kurosawa Hikaru was speechless. Because his kissing experience is indeed very little and he is not skilled at all. Even though I have kissed Xiaoyuki and Ms. Ninomiya, they are relatively honest, and they are happy as long as their lips kiss together. But it's better for boys to be more proficient in their kissing skills. Seeing his astonishment, Sifan Mirai also said. Then I should practice more. When I finish playing the piano, I will teach you slowly. Sifan Mirai turned around and walked towards the violin bag. As she walked forward, the figure she looked back at was very beautiful. Her slender legs fluttered under the hem of her skirt, which was eye-catching. She wore a pair of pure white socks that only covered her ankles. Her feet looked very cute. Okay. Seeing that she was exuding an irresistible charm from head to toe, Kurosawa Hikaru realized that she wanted to practice kissing with him and smiled. Walking to the music stand, Sifan Mirai opened the bag and saw the violin leaning in it. Maybe the violin is not as huge as the piano, but precisely because of its exquisiteness and compactness, a good violin is as beautiful as a work of art and arouses pity. Satisfied, Kurosawa Hikaru was observing her reaction. What piece are we going to play together? Your original piece. Sifan picked up the violin and bow in the future, felt it a bit, nodded with great satisfaction, and was a little eager to try it. Croatian Rhapsody. Hearing this suggestion, Kurosawa Hikaru was a little surprised. He thought she would mention other famous songs. I've watched that video many times. Sifan Mirai nodded slightly, she liked this song very much. Perhaps this piece is not particularly difficult, has no historical background, and cannot be called elegant, but this is Kurosawa's piece, and this alone is enough. Then let's do this one. Realizing her wishes, Kurosawa Hikaru naturally would not refuse. After all, this is private playtime, their ensemble is not for profit, not for performance, the key is to make both of them happy. Although there are many famous songs to choose from, this one is really good. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 293. Officially sitting in front of the piano, Kurosawa Hikaru looked to the side at Sifan Mirai. Holding the violin in one hand and the bow in the other, she looked even more elegant than usual. Gorgeous. Seeing her beauty, Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help but sigh in his heart. So handsome. Sifan Mirai was also looking at him with something in mind. No longer wearing a mask, no longer on the other side of his cell phone, but right in front of him, this man is infinitely charming with his hands and feet. After looking at each other, time was limited, so Kurosawa stopped procrastinating and started playing. Ding dang dang. His slender fingers stretched across the keyboard, and he pressed the keys gently, and the crisp and sweet music suddenly sounded. Watching his performance close at hand, Sci-fi Marai saw him playing the beautiful notes, and couldn't help but feel a little lost and fascinated. However, when he finished playing the prelude and entered the main scene, she also took up the bow. For a time, the sound of the violin and piano echoed in the room, and even echoed outside through the wide-open floor-to-ceiling windows. The piano and the violin are two instruments that are a perfect match. Because the piano is called the king of musical instruments, it is an instrument that integrates harmony and melody, with harmony as the main instrument. The violin is called the queen of musical instruments and is a melody-based instrument. These two instruments have complementary characteristics and are destined to be a perfect match. No words are needed, just music to communicate and feel. As the melody and harmony overlap and form a chapter, at the moment of complete integration, the two people do not need to look at each other, nor do they need to see each other, but they can feel the other's existence extremely strongly, and even become one in mind. Both people have a feeling that they know what the other will do next moment and what notes they will play. The feeling of playing in an ensemble is very wonderful. A comfortable and perfect ensemble makes people addicted and immersed in it. His piano skills are too strong. Sci-fi Marai could feel that the piano in his hand was assisting his violin playing. What's more, she felt that her level and piano skills were improving at an obvious speed, and her upper limit was being raised. Her performance was so beautiful. Kurosawa Hikaru watched her dance as she played, and was fascinated by it. Outside the door, Sayaka Akai stood waiting by the door. She waited for a long time, feeling a little anxious because after the door was closed, there was no movement. However, after waiting for a while, the clear and sweet piano sound came out through the crack in the door, as well as the beautiful violin music. She knew this piece of music was Croatian Rhapsody. Even though it was separated by a door and just slipped out of the crack of the door, it was somewhat blocked, but it was still highly recognizable. The sound of the piano is like a magic sound that seduces people's hearts, making people fall into it and unable to extricate themselves. Mr. Kurosawa is 0 hour. Just through the crack in the door, you can feel the charm of such an ensemble. Akai Sayaka is aware of it and can't help but be surprised. As a maid, although she did not know how to bow, she had accompanied the eldest lady to various places, including concerts. Because of this, her music appreciation ability is very strong. She could feel that the two people playing behind the door were both of high standard, it was just that the piano player was more talented, and he was playing in a calmer and more calm manner. The melody, the harmony, the emotion in it are mesmerizing. In fact, this piece of music is really simple and can't be compared to many famous songs. Even so, simple music, in the hands of a master, can show even more amazing charm. With such amazing piano skills, there is only one person who can match this impression recently, and that is 0 hour. Listening to the melody, Sayaka Akai held her left arm with one hand, feeling unable to calm down for a long time. Not long after, as the music in one hand ended, the sound of the piano gradually subsided. Finished. Realizing this, Sayaka Akai felt a little reluctant and regretful. But after a while, another beautiful and sweet melody sounded. Canon in D major. Just hearing the prelude of the piano, Sayaka Akai's mind was attracted to it. In the room, the two people's ensemble was just a song, which was not enough. Because the feeling of soul fusion seems to be addictive. Faced with Shifunji Yuan's future proposal, Kurosawa Hikaru also played the Canon D major for the first time. Canon, the greatest charm of this piece lies in its many facets of emotion. You can hear peace when you are sad, and you can hear happiness when you are happy. The melody is romantic and beautiful. The two people looked at each other and played the same song. They didn't pursue difficult music, and they didn't care what it was. The key was the feeling of playing together. There is no showing off skills, but running in, or fusion. The two people go from strangers to proficient, getting closer to each other bit by bit. From Croatian Rhapsody, to cannon, to castle in the sky, their ensemble became more and more harmonious, seamless, and a match made in heaven. When the sound of the piano stopped, the two people stopped and looked at each other and smiled. I used to hate the violin because I had to learn too much, but now I like the violin very much. Saifanjayuan Marai stopped, panting a little, and a thin stream of sweat broke out on her forehead, but her smile was very sweet. It was a pleasure playing with you. Hearing this, Kurosawa Hikaru also responded. Musical instruments are not only about pursuing accuracy in melody and rhythm, but also about emotion. Music without emotion has no soul. After he acquired the skill of playing the piano, there were 2 times he enjoyed it so far. The first time was when he presented Adelina by the water to Miss Ninomiya. At that time, he could not contain his love. The second time is the ensemble of today and the future, running into each other until they merge together without any gap. Why are you stealing my lines? Sifenuen put the violin and bow back into the bag in the future and rolled his eyes at him. Ha ha ha. Seeing her complaining glare, Kurosawa felt that she relaxed a lot and couldn't help but smile. Through this ensemble, he felt that he had a better understanding of the future, and the distance between the two of them had also become much closer. How much time do we have? After the ensemble was over, Saifanjayuan Marai walked up to him, sat directly on his lap, leaned into his arms, and asked softly. 8 minutes. Kurosawa Hikaru took out his phone, took a look at it, and responded. It took more than 10 minutes to play 4 pieces of music together. Having said that, this kind of time is not wasted, but can be enjoyed. So little. With only this little time left, Saifanjayuan is somewhat dissatisfied with the future. It felt wonderful to be alone with Kurosawa, without any surveillance or control. There will be more time in the future. Faced with her coquettishness, Kurosawa reached out and pinched her buttocks. Rogue. Saifanjayuan Marai's body trembled due to his sudden attack, and then he smiled and put his arms around his neck. In the future, I'm sorry about what happened that day. Seeing her bright smile, Kurosawa liked it very much and couldn't help but say. What? Even if I kissed 3 of you in a row, you wouldn't be able to. Regarding this matter, Kurosawa Hikaru felt that this was a big wrong decision. SHH. Before he could finish speaking, his lips were pressed by a finger. We can wait until later. We don't have much time. It's time to start practicing. Forced to interrupt, Saifanjayuan Chiao looked at him in the future with a sweet smile, and exhaled in a charming way. Before practice, I have a question. Kurosawa Hikaru realized that now was indeed not the time, nodded, looked at her delicate pink lips, and said suddenly. Don't say that funny thing again. Saifanjayuan wants to take advantage of the good atmosphere to do something that needs to be done in the future. Did you have any candy this morning? Kurosawa Hikaru was naturally measured and asked with a smile. No. Saifanjayuan Marai didn't quite understand why he asked. What about August 10th? Did you eat candy? Nor. Then why is your mouth so sweet? After receiving negative answers one after another, Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help but say. This. Saifanjayuan Marai never expected that after his question, there would be another question, and he couldn't help but be stunned. So do you like it? The next moment, she was amused and burst into laughter. I love it so much. Kurosawa Hikaru held her waist and kissed her lips while laughing. Sitting on his lap and hugging his neck, Sifenuen waited for this kiss in the future and welcomed it enthusiastically. They kept kissing for the rest of the time, as if they were learning the taste of each other and wouldn't stop. The mission goal to be alone with her for half an hour at any place has been achieved. It wasn't until the system's voice sounded that Kurosawa opened his eyes. Time for 2 people in the future with Saifanjayuan. The 4 mission goals are achieved, the mission is completed, and rewards are entry-level parkour, entry-level boxing, and entry-level kicking, permanent. Since the host already possesses parkour, entry-level parkour is upgraded to master level. Since the host already has boxing, the entry-level boxing is upgraded to the master level. Since the host already possesses leg skills, the entry-level leg skills are upgraded to the proficiency level. Is it time? As Kurosawa Hikari became distracted, Shifunjin Mirai also opened his eyes, looking at him with a pair of rippling blue eyes. Unlike men, women enjoy kissing. One more minute. Kurosawa shook his head slightly and smiled. Realizing that there was still time, Seifunjin Mirai blocked his mouth without any hesitation. Knock knock. After a while, with a knock on the door, the 31-minute deadline came. Hearing this sound, both of them stopped. Let's continue next time. Although Kurosawa Hikaru still had more to say, the agreed time had come and he had no choice but to stop. Next time if we have an hour, let's do something more fun. Seifunjin Mirai nodded slightly, and with some reluctance, she bowed her head to his ear and whispered softly. Something more fun. Hearing this, Kurosawa Hikaru's mind was immediately intrigued. Facing his gaze, Seifunjin smiled in the future, and then got off his arms. Click. At this moment, the door was pushed open. Akai Sayaka looked at the situation in the room, and seeing the slightly messy hair and skirt of the eldest lady, she couldn't help but look at Kurosawa Hikaru coldly. Men's mouths are really deceiving. They said that they would just kiss at most, but why are their clothes messed up? Force majeure. Facing her gaze, Kurosawa Hikaru felt a little guilty and explained. There's nothing he can do. When a man kisses a girl, he always doesn't know where to put his hands. 2 more chapters are here. Sorry for keeping you waiting. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 294. Although my alone time is over, Sunday has just begun. After leaving the piano room, they headed to the shooting range. Along the way, Kurosawa Hikaru and Shifunjin Mirai walked side by side, while the maid followed behind. Congratulations. With the gap just now, Seifunjin's future impression and clothes have been completely sorted out, except for the ears and neck, there is still a little lingering charm. What do you mean? This congratulation came out of the blue, and Kurosawa Hikaru didn't understand its meaning. There are all kinds of things, such as winning the Kyoto competition, succeeding in the 100 Steps 1000 Steps challenge, the family head's business card, and being featured in Kyoto magazines. Seifunjin Mirai gently pulled back her hair and looked sideways at him. Because too many things happened, she didn't even have time to congratulate her. These things. Aware of these matters, Kurosawa Hikaru smiled. He knew about being featured in Kyoto magazine last night. After all, he was playing with brother Shinichi. What else do you think it is? I thought you were making insinuations, bragging and sarcasm. In your opinion, am I so evil-minded? How could it be? I think too much. Facing her gaze, Kurosawa smiled. While talking, they made their way back to the shooting range. Different from just now, there is an extra person on the shooting range now, and it is Sato Shinichi. Your combination is truly amazing. Sato Shinichi also laughed when he saw them arriving in pairs. Before he got up, he heard a pleasant sound of the piano, which resounded throughout the dojo. Although he doesn't understand music, he can tell by listening to it whether it sounds good or not. Brother Shinichi. His words were very meaningful, and Kurosawa Hikaru smiled. Good morning, teacher. Seifunjin also greeted politely in the future. What are your plans next? Sato Shinichi nodded slightly and asked. In the dojo, of course it's archery. Because before the training began, he was already satisfied with playing, and Seifunjin will not forget his purpose in the future. Where's my brother? I'll watch from the side. We'll talk about it in the afternoon. I have to accept your guidance in the future. Kurosawa thought for a while, but still didn't get involved. I'm going to change into my Kyoto uniform. In response, Saifunji Mirai bowed slightly, and then led the maid to the dressing room. Not long after, she walked out of the dressing room, picked up her bow, and started practicing. As for Kurosawa Hikaru, he didn't care about the image and just sat down by the wall and watched. Having said that, he won't get bored. After all, Sifenun is very beautiful in the future, and just watching her shoot arrows is also a pleasing thing. What's more, what happened just now left him unsatisfied. Next time if we have an hour, let's do something more fun. Looking at Shifunjin Mirai's beautiful profile and tall and slender figure, Kurosawa Hikaru recalled what she had just said, feeling a little restless in his heart. What are the more fun things, that make people think about it and make them wonder? Different from the past, now he has passed the showdown. At present, Xiaoyuki and Mirai have identified him and are with him. Now, he no longer needs to worry as much as before, worrying that his behavior is cheating. Even though it's exciting, it's still next time. Putting this matter aside, Kurosawa Hikaru sat against the wall, closed his eyes and rested, absorbing the 3 rewards for completing the task just now. The difference between entry level and master level is huge. Because the entry level is equivalent to the results of a lifetime of hard work for ordinary people, while the proficient level is the result of a lifetime of hard work for geniuses. No matter in any field, hard work determines the lower limit and talent determines the upper limit. The same skill is completely different in the eyes of ordinary people and geniuses. Whether it's parkour, boxing, or kicking, there are a lot of gains. What a weirdo. As he was concentrating with his eyes closed, Sayaka Akai, who was standing beside him, couldn't help but look at him. This man is really special and strange. According to the Sifenji family's investigation, he was obviously an ordinary Dongda student with no special skills except reading. But in fact, his actual situation is very different from the data. He is not just a simple nerd, he can also do archery and even fighting skills. He has endless magical powers. As a result, he showed his talent at the piano again today. Any kind of excellent talent cannot be achieved overnight. Everyone's success has traces. But Kurosawa Hikari has no traces at all. He seems to be a powerful person with hidden talent that has been hidden for a long time. He has no talent at all, he just lacks a suitable stage for him to display his talents. Although she felt surprised and strange in her heart, she was not opposed to this. Rather, she was happy to see such a situation. Because the better and more outstanding Kurosawa Hikaru is, it means that his ability and voice will continue to become stronger as his talents are displayed. More than an hour later, Kurosawa opened his eyes after completely absorbing the 3 proficiency level skills. Ms. Sayaka. Kurosawa Hikaru looked at the shooting point. Mirai was shooting arrows tirelessly, and then looked at the maid aside. What are your orders? Upon hearing this summons, Sayaka Akai also walked to his side step by step. Can you get me a glass of water? Sitting on the ground and watching her approach, Kurosawa Hikaru made a request. Certainly. Faced with this trivial request, Sayaka Akai nodded slightly, then turned and left. As she left, Kurosawa Hikaru's eyes followed her back. What happened to your legs and feet? Not long after, Kurosawa Hikaru took the clean water glass, took a sip of water and asked. Akai Sayaka paused after hearing this and did not respond, but looked at him calmly. Your walking posture is different from before. You are not as calm. Are you injured? Seeing that she remained silent, Kurosawa explained. As his leg skills were upgraded to the proficient level, he gained a deeper understanding and appreciation of his legs and feet. That's right, even if Sayaka Akai is wearing a thick maid uniform, covering her body tightly, except for her face and hands, no extra skin can be seen. But when she walked, Her body trembled and the unnatural feeling of disharmony could not be concealed. "It's a small injury, it will be fine in a few days." Sayaka Akai was a little surprised when she saw that he was paying attention to every detail, and then she said calmly without hiding it. After receiving this answer, Kurosawa nodded with satisfaction. From this point of view, the improvement of skills from entry level to master level is a qualitative leap. Not only did his leg skills become stronger, he also gained a deeper understanding and perception of other people's legs, feet and movements. As he gained something, he suddenly thought of a question: why did Miss Sayaka get injured? Is it what happened before? Thinking of this, Kurosawa Hikaru reacted as if he was enlightened. Previously, Sayaka Akai, in order to conceal the private meeting between him and Mirai at the dojo, deceived her superiors and was slapped twice by her grandfather. And now, she is injured again, and it is difficult not to connect the two things. What's more, the future has also said before that those two slaps are not the result. After the maid returns, she may suffer more serious punishment. How serious were her injuries? Realizing this, Kurosawa Hikaru looked at her long maid skirt again, feeling a little concerned. Logically speaking, Miss Sayaka calls herself a fighter, so she should be used to pain. Ordinary minor injuries and pains have no effect on her at all. This was indeed the case. On the surface, she seemed calm and nothing happened. But no matter how hard you endure the pain, people are still human, and when faced with pain, your body will have various instinctive reactions. It is not difficult to imagine that Akai Sayaka's body under the maid skirt may have been severely punished and left traces of pain, so she has an obvious unnatural feeling when walking. Forget it, so what if I know, I don't have medical skills, so I can't help her treat it. After staring sideways for a while, Kurosawa Hikaru finally withdrew his gaze and gave up on searching for what was under the maid's skirt. Even if he made a request and saw Akai Sayaka's legs and feet under her skirt, it would not affect the result of her injury. The most important thing is that the maid's clothes were too thick, so it was quite embarrassing to see her injuries. The future Kyoto training at Seifunjiyuan will continue until 12 noon, and we will stop because we have to have lunch. After lunch, they returned to the dojo again. Kurosawa Hikaru and Shifunjin Mirai sat together by the wall and chatted leisurely. It's incredible. Shifunjin still wears Kyoto Hakama clothes in the future, so he doesn't have to worry about getting his clothes dirty even if he sits directly on the ground. Although she was sitting on the ground, her sitting posture was elegant and cute. She sat with her legs curled up, giving her a girlish look. Why would you say so? Kurosawa Hikaru was in a good mood when he saw her appearance. I thought about our previous relationship and the ensemble this morning, and it felt incredible, Sifenu and Mirai explained. Indeed. After hearing this, Kurosawa Hikaru thought about it and felt the same way. In fact, he has known Wei Lai for a long time, but the real acquaintance was actually last month. For more than a year, they have been like strangers and have never had any unnecessary communication. But now, they are playing together and doing things that were unimaginable before. How did you convince the maid? Give us half an hour. Seifunjiyuan smiled in the future, and then became curious. Miss Akai actually gave her half an hour to be alone with Kurosawa, which was a surprise to her. In the face of absolute interests, even enemies can become friends. I made a promise with her that when we get married, we will give her freedom. Kurosawa explained the principle and said frankly. Give her freedom? Is that okay? Upon hearing this method, Seifunjiyuan Mirai was immediately shocked. It's not absolute freedom, it's just the freedom of non-interference. Even though it is like this, it is also very important to her. Kurosawa Hikaru understood why she was shocked and explained. As a member of the Akai family, Sayaka Akai wants true freedom, which is impossible in this life. Of course, even formal freedom that allows her to put aside her identity as a maid and live as a human being is an extremely precious hope for her. Don't interfere with each other, we don't care about her after marriage, and she doesn't care about us either. After thinking about the future of Sifan Jayuan, he confirmed. That's pretty much it? Kurosawa thought for a moment and nodded. This matter must be resolved. If the problem of the maid's tip-off is not resolved, he will always be under surveillance in the future and will have no way to be free. So that means the maid problem is solved. When Sifan thought about what happened this morning in the future, she, who was still overjoyed, suddenly felt her heart beat faster. If the maid becomes one of our own, she can do a lot of things she wants to do. It's half solved. You should be nicer to her and care more about her. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded slightly, thinking about the maid's injury, and also warned him. I've always been nice to her. Sifan Jayuan Mirai naturally understands this truth. Even if he knows that the maid is not one of his own, he cannot do anything too extreme and force the other party to stand on the opposite side. Do you know about her injury? She's hurt. Didn't I practice fighting skills? Then I saw her today and discovered that although she didn't have any injuries on the surface, her walking posture was unnatural. She must have been injured, but it was just covered up by the maid costume. Sure enough, is there any subsequent punishment? Realizing this, Sifan frowned in the future. In fact, she had been paying attention to the maid since that day at the Budokan. However, Sayaka Akai didn't show any abnormality, so it was useless for her to observe even if she wanted to. This has already happened. There is no way to change it, but it can be made up for. After all, she was punished because of us. For this matter, Kurosawa Hikaru felt a sense of debt in his heart. When I go back tonight, I'll see if I can do anything. Sifan noticed his thoughts in the future and nodded. That's fine. Kurosawa Hikaru was relieved to see that she was going to do something on his behalf. Speaking of which, I have something to tell you. After deciding on this matter, Sifan Jayuan looked at him in the future, thought about it and said. What? Kurosawa Hikaru noticed that her expression was serious, as if she had something important to say. My parents want to see you, on Tuesday, when you come to your tutoring class. Sifan Jayuan Mirai took a deep breath and said. Real or fake? Kurosawa's expression froze, hoping she was joking. What's happening here? This is to meet the parents. Of course it's true. Why do they want to see me? Realizing that this was true, Kurosawa was suddenly a little nervous. I don't know the specific reason. It's just that Grandpa has talked with them. They should know about you, but you don't have to be afraid. Grandpa gave you the business card of the head of the family before, which means that Grandpa is very satisfied with you. He is definitely not will speak ill of you. Sifan shook his head in the future and comforted him while explaining. In other words, is this a good meeting? Kurosawa thought for a while and felt relieved. Yes, but you'd better be mentally prepared. Seeing that he was relaxed, Sifan Jayuan gave him a reminder to ensure his future safety. Today's update is a bit stuck. Also recommend the new book by the Lemon Tea Boss.